My blind husband doesn't know I've been lying to him for years. 3 years ago, my husband Adrian lost his sight in a workplace accident at the construction site where he'd worked as a foreman for 12 years. A steel beam fell during a structural collapse, and while he survived with relatively minor physical injuries, the impact caused severe damage to his optic nerves that no surgery could repair. The doctor said he'd never see again, and I watched the man I'd loved since college crumble under the weight of that diagnosis. Those first few months were the hardest thing we'd ever been through together. I watched Adrian sink into a depression so deep I wasn't sure he'd ever find his way out, and I made a decision during those dark months that would define the next 3 years of our marriage. I decided to lie to him about everything, to create a version of reality that would give him reasons to keep living instead of drowning in the darkness of what his life had actually become. It started small, with little lies about how people reacted to him when we went out in public. Adrian was intensely self-conscious about his white cane and the way his eyes no longer focused properly. The first time I lied was at the grocery store about 2 months after the accident, when a woman stared at him with this mixture of pity and discomfort that made my stomach turn. Adrian sensed something was wrong and asked if people were staring, and I told him no, that everyone was just going about their shopping and nobody was paying attention to us. The relief on his face was immediate and visible. That moment taught me something important about the power of words to shape reality for someone who couldn't verify what I was saying. If I told Adrian the world was kind and normal and unchanged by his disability, he had no choice but to believe me because he couldn't see the truth for himself. From that day forward, I became the curator of his reality, carefully filtering every piece of information that came to him through me. When people stared or whispered or pulled their children away from us in public, I described friendly smiles and casual indifference. The lies expanded as the months passed. Our house had been beautiful when we bought it, but maintaining a house requires money and time, both of which had become scarce after Adrian's accident. The garden died first, the carefully tended roses and vegetable beds turning brown and overgrown. The house followed gradually, with small repairs going undone. Paint peeled from the exterior walls. The roof developed a leak that I patched temporarily with tarps. But when Adrian asked me to describe what the house looked like now, I told him it was exactly as he remembered it, beautiful and well-maintained, the garden thriving with seasonal flowers. The neighborhood deteriorated faster than the house, transforming from a quiet family area into something harder and more dangerous. Our street became a place where I hurried from the car to the house with my keys held between my fingers like a weapon. Break-ins happened frequently, and our house was burglarized twice in the first year. I filed police reports and dealt with the insurance claims, but I never told Adrian what had happened. Instead, I moved things around and made excuses about why certain items were in storage or being repaired. His family had essentially abandoned him after the accident, but I invented an elaborate fiction about their continued involvement in our lives. I'd tell him his mother had called while he was sleeping, and that she'd asked about his therapy. I'd describe visits from his brother that never happened, inventing conversations and shared meals that existed only in my descriptions. I gave him a fictional family who loved and supported him, and I watched him draw strength from relationships that existed only in my words. The financial lies were perhaps the most dangerous. Adrian's disability payments covered about 40% of what he used to earn, and we'd burned through our savings in the first year. By the second year, we were accumulating debt at an alarming rate. Credit cards maxed out, the mortgage fell behind. I told him we were fine financially, that I'd actually gotten a raise at work. The truth was, I'd been working extra shifts, coming home exhausted but maintaining the fiction that everything was easy and manageable. The turning point came on a Saturday afternoon in late fall, about 3 years after the accident. Adrian wanted to try walking to the corner store by himself. What I didn't tell him was that the corner store had closed 6 months ago and the building was now abandoned. I didn't mention that the route would take him past several houses occupied by squatters, or that there had been an assault on that same street just 2 weeks earlier. I watched him leave with his cane, then immediately followed at a distance. When he reached the corner where the store used to be, he stopped, confusion evident in his posture. Then I watched a group of men emerge from the abandoned building, clearly high or drunk. They spotted Adrian immediately and started moving toward him. And that's when 3 years of carefully constructed lies came crashing down. The full story is linked below or on my channel.